Mitchell from Hassell.
Hi, Mitchell. All our names are here, and given as our graduate.
Sorry for that.
That's all right.
Whenever you're ready.
Thanks for having me. Yeah, so I'll be presenting the Melbourne Town Hall today. So it's a project we've been working on with Lovell Chen and City of Melbourne, and its name is the ground floor of Reimagining, and it's, just to put it into context, it's the ground floor of what's known as the administration building, which is part of the Melbourne Town Hall complex. And the purpose of this project was really about, Melbourne sort of really deserves this amazing town hall, and it always has been the civic heart of Melbourne. Everyone loves this image of the Beatles on the portico, and we really just wanted to make sure this could continue for the next 150 years. But it's really challenging. It was this symbol of sort of power and authority, sort of post-gold rush, and it just doesn't meet the expectations of the community anymore, and it completely misaligns with the City of Melbourne objectives of being sort of bold and open and sustainable. So it's really challenging. So how do we turn it into a really open, connected public building, but really keep those heritage elements that we love about this building? The context we all know, but it's in a really amazing and significant spot within the Hoddle Grid, sort of right on the junction of Collins and Swanston on Melbourne Civic Boulevard. Just zooming into the site plan, so the evolution's quite interesting. So the original town hall was the first building. It's evolved into the administration building. Then over time, the sort of the Capitol Hill precinct has continued to build administration buildings. So there's now sort of 3 administration buildings, backing on sort of what is the town hall proper sort of over time. So there's Council House 1 and Council House 2. From a historical perspective, it's important for its ongoing seat, its ongoing role as the seat of governance, and it's number 1 on the Heritage Register for a reason. It's a very special and significant building to Melbourne. The part we're talking about today was built in 1908 to 1910, so it's just celebrated its 110th anniversary. So I think this chronology of sort of progression I think is really important. So what we're presenting today is the tiny red dot, so it's sort of 1 year and it's 110-year anniversary. So I think it's important to put that in perspective, where what we're doing now might realistically, there's sort of this progression of sort of every 30 years there's a bit of an upgrade. So we're sort of hoping for that sort of type of a legacy. But I think this ongoing evolution is really interesting. Sort of 150 years ago, the current town hall was first constructed, followed by the portico, followed by the administration building in 1910, followed by the replacement and expansion of the main hall following the fire in the 1920s.
So I don't want to rush you, but you've only got 4 more minutes. So
sure. Yeah. Okay. So consultation was really important. The key outcome was we need a room for engagement, a public forum, and that was what this master plan process sort of led out. This sort of longer term vision is what we're working towards. Sort of over the next sort of 5 years, if funding is achieved, and that's really this sort of reimagining of the entire administration building, but whereas the ground floor sort of upgrade, turning it from what it was, sort of the old sort of customer relations and sort of visitor area, into this sort of new public building. It's fun when there's a really clear strategy in place, and respecting the ENFILADE and the original design intent of the building was our main design intent. So it was really about editing back all the add-ins over the last 30 years and just really creating that legible, clear, easy to understand floor plan, but making it much more public, much more open, accessible and safe. So this security overlay and sort of DDA access were sort of really key topics. So there's, building on the new visitor centre, which is sort of a shop front onto Swanston Street. We've now got another sort of public-facing use for the customer relations in the City Gallery. And we've really got this sort of main public use of the forum and what is known as the city DNA space, which are the parts of the sort of four key kits of parts of the brief, which was that public forum, the city DNA, customer relations, and the city gallery sort of refurbishment. So, but yeah, as I mentioned, so it was really about turning, the feedback was, this is, yes, there is a time and a place for the pomp and ceremony of the traditional chamber, but it really doesn't reflect their identity anymore. So it was about not chucking that in a bin, that's always going to be used for the formalities, but it was really about this sort of much more open, visible, celebrating democracy, being able to walk down Swanson Street and know and see what happens inside the admin building, because most people just didn't know that was the seat of our governance, and that was where democracy occurs. So the very empty shots through COVID, so it's much more successful when it's full of people. This is the types of meetings that are planned for here are things like the Future Melbourne Committee, so public sort of engagements. The chamber still has its role, but yeah, it was very much about using the natural light from the bay windows and respecting this sort of symmetry and formality of the building, while embedding in all the sort of super complex sort of AV and tech requirements that they require for voting and online broadcasting, so acoustics and all those sorts of things were super complex, but really good fun to incorporate. The other really nice moment of this building was the upgrade of the gallery. So it's had a rejuvenation, and it's, again, I think quite fitting that the first exhibition was an exhibition called Your Quarterly Invited, which celebrates the 150th anniversary of the town hall. So yeah, really beautiful exhibition. Hopefully you get to see that if you go on a tour of this building. And then the third really sort of interesting space was this sort of very interactive engagement space for City Lab and this sort of City DNA space. So this is the types of space that architects can engage with the City of Melbourne in quite sort of interactive augmented reality with the sort of 3D model. So taking out some of those uses of Council House 2 into this sort of much more democratic and sort of interactive space for sort of digital and physical sort of engagement. So last slide, I think, as I'm sure will be a common theme for all your presentations today, these are really hard projects, really challenging, but obviously very satisfying. But just to sort of put you, a few of the behind the scene pictures of how you have to try and lay, thousands of metres of power and data cables into these very sensitive buildings is good fun. But yeah, so thanks for your time. That was very rushed, sorry, but
That's okay.
get through
I think
it.
you've made it on time.
Yeah, made on time.
Thanks.
Made on time.
Perfect.